Okay, it looks like we are streaming. Let me just double check audio. Say something, Judy.
Hello. There we go.
Turn on the audio a little bit. Keep talking,
Oh,
because we're live now.
well, this is my first time live.
So, are you the one that's on here right now?
Yes.
You're watching. Okay.
Well, no, I'm not actually. I was going to share it first.
Okay. All right. So I don't care if people are tuning
Watching.
in. I want to just open up this by kind of, if anybody's watching this, I think we are live on Facebook too. And the last time I went live, I didn't go live on Facebook um, because I don't know why. Oh, back then I was like,
You're hiding?
I was still fresh on this idea of I don't want to be on social media anymore. And so if you're on here on Facebook, or you happen to see this video on Facebook, I recorded, or I did a live video on my YouTube channel, the Run and Tell channel, where I explain why I'm not on social media anymore, and maybe I will post that link. And so if you're wondering about like why we haven't posted to the Run and Tell social media accounts in a while, there's information. Um, I kind of list out why why that is, and why I personally haven't really been active on social media. And I know that might kind of seem contradictory, since maybe some of you may watch this on Facebook, but just go ahead and watch that video another time if you are curious as to why. I make points why personally I think that it was a great decision for me, and maybe it'll be a great decision for you. And so, if you're interested in that, go ahead and check that video out, why I'm not on social media anymore. But today, I actually wasn't even expecting on going live today, or even I did want to interview somebody who is an ex-Scientologist in the next few weeks, but I really am not planning any lives, and so this one today is spontaneous. As you can see, I'm joined for the first time by my wife, and we are in our jackets because we live in the mountains of San Bernardino County, and it's really cold, and our Run and Tell studio is in my garage, and so that's why we're wearing jackets, and Judy's freezing cold right now. But this was actually her idea to do this. Um, she texted me randomly during service, and she kind of shared that uh, that we should do this, talk about how we met, and I just thought it was a great idea. Really, because this whole platform, the Run and Tell thing, is about sharing a person sharing their story, so that we can kind of glorify God and testify of His goodness towards us, and so. Um,
Oops.
that
My bad.
one of the things that I share probably more often than my own testimony uh, in a person to person conversation is how I met Judy. That to me will probably be one of, you know, the the greatest expressions of God's love and goodness to me is my wife, and how God brought us together. And so the story is actually pretty cool. And so, why do you think it's important that we share our story, Judy?
Well, it's just, it's sharing what the Lord has done individually and how the Lord brought us together, and now, you know, what He's done through us both, as in this like marriage ministry.
Yeah, and
So,
we often hear that, hey, your first ministry is your family and your marriage, and and that's something that we've been learning. And but I think maybe what would be important also is to kind of understand where we were before we met each other, what our kind of mindset was, and so what was it for you?
um, well, uh, Okay, I have to sum it up because I could go on. um, so Miles was my first boyfriend. So, I didn't, I, it's really hard to put into words, but to simplify it, I guess would be, you know, I didn't think I would be where I'm at now. I didn't think, and I don't know why I didn't think the Lord would bless me this way, being married and having three beautiful baby boys. But, you know, um, when you're in high school, you're in that little community there. You don't see past that. So back in high school, you're just trying to survive. Going into college, I remember going to Biola, and they're always talking about ring by spring. What, you know, there's, I just remember not wanting to be a part of that group, being a part of that statistic. And so, I was determined not to get involved in that. I was a commuter anyway, so I just, I didn't want to be about that. I wanted to, finish school, do all that. Um, but, I was getting, older, which is like 20s. It's like I never had a boyfriend, so it's a little discouraging, and I know what that's like. You're discouraged, you're getting older. 25 comes around, 26, and it's like you know, you just you make that time about you and the Lord. And I did have my friend that just really encouraged me on my, gosh, I can't remember what birthday it was, but it was the birthday before I met Miles. Um, she just took me out to dinner for my birthday, and just encouraged me. And I remember asking her, are my standards too high? Like, you know, I I was around people my age, but I just was wondering, was my standard too high? You know, um, what do you think? She's like, no, Judy, your standards are not high. Just what the Lord put on your heart, follow that.
And what standards would that have been?
Well, it was pretty specific, so
For real? Balding, bearded,
no,
diabetic guy?
no, no. Actually, so someone that loved the Lord more than me, because I knew that He would be someone that would help lead me more towards the Lord. So I didn't want someone that loved the Lord less than me or right at the same, because I knew that he needed to be a leader. So someone that loved the Lord more than me, and someone that well, I just figured, since I never had a boyfriend, maybe that person should, you know, someone that would didn't have a girlfriend. So, and then also something that was pretty specific was uh, like I had heard this at a purity conference back in high school, I think, where there was this couple that they didn't kiss till their wedding day. And so that's something that I definitely wanted to do, um, and would hope that, he would be willing to do that, make that first kiss special. And so when, well, I guess we'll get into
Yeah.
that.
So one of
But
the other
yeah.
things, I'm glad you bring that specific part up because it reminded me that, um, some of the stuff that we're gonna talk about is something that's very specific to us, and um, I don't want it to get miscommunicated that what happened between us or in our story is something that is expected of every person, and I think life is way too complex for God to just work in one specific way. And so, with that being said, like if you're single right now and you're like, "Oh, I want that to happen," and everything else you're just gonna let slip past you because you want that specific way to happen. And I know Judy was talking about the standards that she had, but those aren't too specific. I would say like
Well, no
wanting so.
girlfriend?
Well, no.
That was pretty.
No. I mean,
Come on.
that is pretty specific, but but that's like a secondary thing, and those are I
Yeah,
guess those
that is a
like the
secondary thing.
essential thing.
Yeah.
If you're doesn't matter where you are, who or what you were raised with or whatever, having like the I guess the same values as Christians, what's important, the essentials, being like-minded or not. I would say of the same yoke that the scriptures say. Like that's obviously important, but um, and then purity also. But the way it happened with us is a very special thing, and that's why I like to share it. Sometimes people don't even ask. I share it voluntarily, like how you met, because it's always a reminder of God's goodness to me. And so just let that be known, that we're not saying that it has to happen exactly the same way as you, um, or as us. It doesn't it doesn't have to happen that same way for you. But as far as that specific standard that you had, it's very interesting because this little live stream is titled "I thought I would be single forever, but then we met." And here's the reality, like growing up, and it was funny because we were joking about this. I don't know when it was, but a couple days ago or something like that, where you were saying that when you were younger, you felt self-conscious, that you felt you're ugly, and I was like, "What? You're tripping!" Like, and then I shared, I thought I was ugly, and then you were like, "Well, yeah,
No.
no."
Say
And
that.
so, you know,
Miles.
I'm joking, but you know, when I was growing up, I had a very low self-esteem because of our family situation. So much so that when I even became a teenager, um, I just was so terrified at the idea of talking to a girl, and so, so to the point where even my older sister Madison, she was convinced for a while there, because all my guy cousins were all these like Rico Suave type guys. Always had different girls every different summer that they would bring home to the family, and then me, it was never that way. And so my sister was convinced that I was gay. My older sister Madison thought I was gay, and just for the simple fact that I never brought a girl to meet the family and stuff like that. But the reality was that I was much too terrified to ever talk to someone of the opposite sex. But when after high school, you know, I had become a Christian, and there was certain young ladies that I was interested in, and we went and had coffee, and nothing ever worked out because I had standards too, which was like, hey, I wanted to serve God. I wanted to be used of God, and I had known some people who wanted the same thing, but because they were in a type of relationship where their wife or their girlfriend didn't share the same missional values, that it was very difficult for them. And so I was very careful, with these young ladies that I went and had coffee with, and I every single time I was just kind of disappointed, like, oh man, I'm gonna be single forever. And I remember me and Ricky Tostado, who's been on the show before. Griselda Lawrence says hi, by the way. So we used to joke about it, and then I just kind of got to a point where I said, you know what, I give up. Lord, I give up. I'm wasting time. I'm wasting money. I'm wasting emotion because I'm buying coffee for.
Yeah.
And
Well, wasting money because never mind.
well, wasting money because listen, coffee
That's
isn't
later.
that expensive, right? But and it wasn't like we were getting coffee. I mean, these instances was maybe like 10 times over the course of maybe 4 or 5 years.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and so it
That's
wasn't,
fine.
but that's a lot of money to me back then because I didn't have nothing. And so coffee was like, oh, I gotta spend $5.
So you gotta register for rewards.
Yeah,
You can get it back.
yeah, you're always on me about that. Um, but I just kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm wasting time, I'm wasting money, and I'm wasting emotion
Mm,
because you're trying to, you don't want to be alone
mhm.
when you're thinking that way when you're single
Yeah.
and you're wondering if that's going to be your life forever, and so you want things to work out, right?
Mhm.
But I'm so glad that with those young ladies, it didn't work out. I am so glad that it didn't work out. I honestly, I feel like I dodged bullets, and um, and it, and so they just kind of got to a point where I gave up, and I said,
Mhm.
you know what, Lord, I'm just gonna focus on you, and I'm just gonna serve you,
Mhm.
and that's kind of where I left off when I found out I was gonna go to South Africa.
Mhm.
Now here's the interesting thing. Okay,
Oh, I
go
want
ahead.
to say something really quick because
Okay,
I remember a family member also thought the same thing of me.
really?
Yeah,
You never
and
told me that. Wow, put them on blast.
no,
No.
no, but I think it was like a high school thing. Like, oh, I thought it,
Hmm. Yeah.
but I was just, I've always been shy and timid, the same, um, self conscious, and I was never one to go out and start something, so I think, but even in those situations, like, who cares? Like, now that I think about it, who cares? But like, I felt like the Lord was really protecting me too,
Mm,
so you hear stories of people in high school or college, and it's like the Lord really protected me
yeah.
and saved me for somebody.
Yeah. And not only that, but the Lord was really guiding both of us
Yeah.
because when we talk about where we met, where did we meet?
South Africa.
South Africa. Okay. And the crazy thing about us meeting in South Africa is not just because, hey, look, I lived in Fontana, you lived in Whittier, which is like 60 miles apart. Okay, that's kind of a long distance, but where we happen to meet is on the other side of the world.
Hmm.
And so that's pretty specific and special, I think.
Hmm.
But leading up to that is what I kind of find to be miraculous
Hmm.
and a testimony because your church, shout out to Calvary Chapel First Love and John Schaefer and Aaron Lorkovic.
It's First Love Calvary Chapel Whittier.
Okay, sorry. 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 So, um, you guys were arranging a mission trip, which was specifically to go to a rehab thing out there, and then also to an orphanage, right?
Yeah, it was a worship team mission trip, which
Oh,
only there was 30 of us the first meeting for
uh-huh.
interest, and it ended up only being 3 of us.
Oh.
So
You did play on the worship team out there, didn't you?
yes.
Okay, and then
Oh wait, I don't think
I don't
I didn't
remember.
play in no, I didn't play in South Africa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I remember you helped with the VBS stuff
Yeah.
at the orphanage there
Yeah.
in Johannesburg. So so there was a specific mission that you guys had in going over there, but then the church that I was at the time ends up getting invited because the pastor had a testimony that was specific to the guys that would have been at the rehabilitation home, which was the compound that we stayed at. Now, when news about that trip came to our church, I had already gone to a few overseas mission trips, and so I was just trying to be obedient to the Lord in my singleness and as I was starting off in the ministry, and so I had gone on a couple trips with this pastor, and I remember when he said he was going, immediately I felt like God was like saying, "You are going on this trip," and like my heart was pounding, and I just was like, "Yeah, let's do it, Lord." And I didn't know why. I didn't know what there was to do out there because he hadn't said anything about it. And so here's where it gets interesting. So I approached the pastor and I said, "Hey, I really believe the Lord is calling me to go on this trip with you." And he kind of laughs at me and he goes, "Ah, bro, you just want to put another stamp on your passport." And I said, no, man, the Lord's speaking to me. And he goes, no, I don't think so, man. You just want to go. This person has a testimony that's useful over there. This person has a testimony that's useful over there. And so I was really bummed out. So a few months goes by, and it's about a month before we're supposed to fly out to South Africa. How much was that trip?
I think it was almost 3,000.
Almost
wasn't
$3,000.
it? It was really expensive.
I wasn't saving because I thought, man, I'm not going to be able to go. But about a month before, the pastor approaches me and says, hey, this person, and this person can't go. Can you go? And I said, man, let's see. Because I don't have that money. I was working at a check cashing store. And here's the other thing. That check cashing store said to me, the boss there, who's a strong believer, but she takes her job very seriously, as she should. She said, if you go on that trip, you're probably not going to have a job when you come back. And I was like, the Lord told me to go, so I'm going. Mind you, as we're going there, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing there. There's nothing planned for me to do out there, right? You had specific thing. You guys were going to be part of the VBS, and me, I was just kind of...
Because that's what the ladies do.
That's what the ladies
We just do children's ministry.
Well,
Just kidding.
I'll tell you what, though. So remember, every person on the trip had a day where they were going to share a devotional, right, in the morning. And so I remember your devotional was like one of the best. And when we talk about standards, that's one of the things that was very important to me, was that I would meet somebody that had a kind of a equal understanding of Scripture, like somebody who I can talk about Scripture with, and was grounded in that. And so, but anyways, so we get there, and I remember being absolutely bored on this trip, 2 weeks in South Africa, and I had nothing to do. I was so bored, and I think I've told you this, I was so bored in South Africa that I climbed a tree. I said, I wonder what's on the other side of this fence. I'm going to climb this tree. I had nothing to do. We had to stay on the compound, and unless we had like planned trips outside or whatever. And so I just kind of felt stuck. And the entire time I was there, I was like, Lord, why am I here? Why did I have to raise $3,000 in just a few weeks? And that was amazing also, but why? And I think it's obvious now. So what was going on with you during that trip?
Well, let's back it up.
Okay.
Because I don't know, I kind of feel like the Lord was preparing me to meet you. So there's a couple things I'm going to set up prior to going. So one thing was, so my birthday just passed. It was February. We went on this trip at the end of February, and into March. So that talk I had with my friend was very close to, it was right after or right before the trip. So I had, talked with her and was encouraged again. Okay, I'm going to, stick to my standards and let the Lord, do his work. Because I didn't even understand how, because I thought, okay, we're just going to be friends. And then all of a sudden we're going to be engaged. Like, it's just going to work like that. So that's what I was thinking, and I didn't know how it was going to work. So anyways, so the trip was coming. We've had several team meetings, and we heard, oh yeah, there's this other church that's coming. There's 3 people in total. They're coming with us. Well, where are they? There's been 3 team meetings. We've never met them. How are we supposed to be a team and unified if we've never met them? Because this is the type of like training I had on other previous mission trips. So I was like, this is already going to be dysfunctional. So then another time, prior to the trip, I just remember thinking, Lord, It's funny. I never desired to marry a pastor. I don't know why I thought that. It was just really random. I've known other young ladies in the young adults ministry where that's what they flat out said, I want to marry a pastor. And then here's this guy that likes the girl, and they're trying to become a pastor because they want to be with the girl.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
like, I think I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, man, that's never been my desire. And then that was that thought. So that was kind of weird. And then we get to the airport. I remember being in the airport, and
Sorry.
I remember being in the airport, and I I know it was you. You passed by. We never met. I didn't even know you were a part of our team. And we were waiting in the corner where everyone was checking in, and you passed by. And I don't know if I told you this, but in my mind, I remember a thought coming into my head like, I think I can like a big guy. Like, and I meant like, taller than me. Um, but that thought came into my head, and I was like, that's weird. Okay. And then so I moved on. Um, so now my nose is red because it's so cold. Sorry. So that thought came into my head, and then it was done. And so um, we were on the mission trip. We flew out already. My first impression of, their group was, they never went to the meetings. And now in the airport, where are they? We're all in a group, but they're over there. Where did they go? Like, and then he's stepping on my shoe, giving me a flat tire.
I remember. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We were on a. I think it was. We were either getting off or about to get on an escalator.
Yeah.
And I stepped on the back of your shoe.
Yeah.
And I just remember feeling like, oh god.
I gave him
I
the
don't
look
even
like.
know why I'm here, and I'm just pissing everybody off, and here's this girl, this pretty girl who's all mad at me, and it's gonna be awkward for the rest of the trip.
Yeah. But it just, I don't think I talked to him. It wasn't until a week into the trip when we had it was like a fellowship or something at the pool party thing.
Yeah, it was a 2-week trip, and they wanted to do like a barbecue, and we were kind of like still kind of meeting people from
The church.
the church there in South Africa, and the pastor that I went with at that time was talking to you, and then he calls me over.
Oh yeah.
And I guess you guys were talking about a young adults retreat that you guys were putting together, and at that time I think I had been doing the young adults ministry at that church for maybe about 3 years, and I kind of was just doing it by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so you guys were talking about putting together a retreat that was going to include several different young adults from different churches.
Yeah.
And so he wanted us to dialogue about that.
Yeah, and I remember before I left, our young adult leader said, "Hey, talk to this other church," which was the other church that went with us, not your church, because we didn't know about you guys.
It was Carachapa South.
Yeah.
Probably, right?
So they're like, "Oh, talk to them because we'd like to have them over." And then we were talking about it with Pastor David Trujillo, and then I think the other Pastor David said, "Hey, well, why don't you talk about him? He's our young adults leader." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." so, so that's kind of how it started. Not only that, you had to use my iPod to talk to your family, text your family. I was like, "Here you go."
We were using all kinds of your stuff over there. So you had all kinds of medicine. I remember Big Mac Tostado, Ricky Tostado's dad. He was on that trip, and I don't know if he had like a cold or something. And
we all had coughs because we were in the air so long.
And he was trying to take a big swig out of it. And you're like, "What? You need to take a teaspoon." He said, "A teaspoon? Look at me." And so, oh look, Chaz is on here. Chaz was on that trip. He's saying, "So blessed to be on that trip. Great memories." Chaz, I remember you said, and I absolutely agree. And kind of furthering the point of like, I had no idea why I was out there. I had nothing to do. But Chaz, I remember him saying after maybe about a week or so, he just comes out of the shower and he goes, "Man, this is like a glorified men's retreat." Oh, I thought that was so funny, and I amen that for sure. But so so I don't even remember using your iPod to
Yeah.
try to contact my family. But what I do remember is after we had met halfway through the trip, after a week, we had another week to go,
Mhm.
and I remember we were gonna try to do tacos or something like that for the
Mhm.
people there because they had never had tacos,
Yeah.
and so me, you, and a couple other of the young people there on that trip were starting to get all the fixings ready,
Mhm.
and I happened to be cutting the cheese, and I just was like, here, so that you guys know that I just really have not been that good with talking to the ladies. The best joke I could have come up with was, "Hey, look, everybody, I'm cutting the cheese," and that was my best, and it worked. No, but you know what?
Uh,
I remember that during that time when we were all those young people were cutting up all the fixings for the tacos, there was like a conversation that came up. I don't even know how it came about, but I had said something like, if I meet somebody or if I get married, she's gonna have to be willing to live with me in a tent in the mission field if God were to call me to like the wilderness or to like the jungle
mm.
and on that type of mission field. And so I remember saying that because maybe I really believed that obviously, but that was kind of my input in the conversation. What is what do you remember
Oh,
that conversation?
yeah. So there's like several things that happen like that, but yeah, I don't know. Like I said, these thoughts were, these impressions or thoughts were coming in my head. I was thinking about it, and all I remember saying is, "Oh, I'd, you know, live in a tent with you," or something like that. It was really weird. Nothing, spooky, crazy, or anything
No,
like
but
that.
just the idea of
Yeah, but I think in some of the things that were already going on, like
mhm,
it was leading to that. Because I remember when we were praying for everyone in our devotions, I remember Pastor Aaron was praying for you.
mhm,
And Pastor Aaron was praying for you, and we were all in a circle. And I was like way across the room from you, and we were, eyes closed and praying. And I remember him saying, "And Lord, I pray for his wife." And I remember like just having this like feeling like, oh my gosh, he's talking about me, and it's like what?
really?
But
I don't.
I
Dang.
told you that. But like I don't know if anyone else has ever had that type of feeling like that. And I mean, I promise I didn't start anything, I
Yeah.
didn't mention
Well,
it,
because even after that
didn't.
conversation with me, you, and Pastor David, we still didn't really talk or like
Yeah,
talk at all,
yeah,
except for maybe like, oh hey,
I don't think
can I
we.
use your iPod or can I borrow some medicine? And
Yeah,
it was all simple things like that.
but I don't think we did. We exchange numbers? I don't think we
No, I
did.
think I think what happened was there was the understanding that we were going to network and connect because of the
The
young
young
adults
adults,
retreat,
yeah.
and so I think after the trip we added each other on Facebook,
Oh yeah,
and
because that
it's
was the safest time to do it, because you're
yeah
adding everybody.
yeah I
That's
was
what I
like
thought.
yeah it was low key like she
Yeah.
won't think I like her because just in case you know.
We're adding all these
Or
other
adding
people.
everybody else on the trip. I was thinking the same thing. That is so funny.
uh,
It won't be creepy if I add
yeah.
her on Facebook. And so,
Uh,
but what's interesting is when you talk about like those little things that were happening that are probably kind of like a little
like the
little
Lord
hints
preparing my
from
heart or
the
something.
Lord
Yeah.
kind of dropping the little guidance there, the hints,
Yeah.
and preparing our hearts and guiding the way. um, it's so interesting about that because I remember Rick Tostado. I remember when we were in ministry school, when we met each other, we were just kids, and we would always talk about this stuff, because we're roommates. We spend every minute of every day with each other,
Mhm.
and 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 I was like the only person there that had never had a girlfriend of the guys, at least, right? And so one day I was just kind of like very vulnerable, and I didn't care, and I just asked. I said, "Dude, how do you know when not even like when someone's the one? How do you know when somebody likes you?"
Uh-huh.
Because when I talk about the past experiences with trying to date or whatever, um, I never knew. I somehow I always found myself in the friend zone or whatever, and I thought if we just were friends that we'll end up getting married one day or something. and
Well,
so
see?
and so it's like I didn't know we had to have an actual conversation, and how do you have that conversation?
Uh-huh.
And I just remember Ricky like looking at me just saying, "Dude, you'll know." And that
Uh-huh.
always frustrated me because every time after that, it was always kind of like, I can't tell if I know or not, right? But
And I don't
when
want to waste money.
money or time or emotions, and so that's why when you say like dropping all these hints, preparing our heart, like
Yeah.
when we started exchanging messages through Facebook,
Mhm.
through the messages,
Mhm.
it's so weird how it kind of grew from just like this informational exchange, which is like, okay, what's the name of your young adults, or how many young adults do you have in your group, and where's it gonna be and stuff like that. It evolved from just this informational exchange to, hey, so I just you're on my heart to pray for. Do you have any prayer requests, or you know?
This
my
is
game
how.
my game grew from, hey, look, everybody, I'm cutting the cheese, to,
Do you have
can
prayer
I
requests?
take a prayer request from you?
Oh my gosh.
So talk about that. Like, what happened there? It was all through Facebook. We didn't
Yeah.
have each other's phone
Well,
numbers yet.
but here's the thing. There's still like two more instances where I feel like the Lord was like working on me and like
Mm-hmm.
getting me there. The one other time where it was it was funny. So the missionary there, Pastor Chad, was taking us to the orphanage and we were taking equipment. And I think
Mm-hmm.
you took like a big speaker or something. Do you
Oh,
remember that?
yeah, I remember the big speaker thing.
And I was in the little lobby there and he was like, wow, look at that strong man of God. And I was like, where? In my head, I was like, where? So that was the one. It was funny. But,
Oh
and then
man.
I think you just walked out. So that was a funny thing. But what was the other one? Shoot. Oh, so I think it was after the taco night. I
Uh-huh.
just, you know what? Like, I felt like the Lord really had me, like, He wanted me to go on this trip.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I had a scripture from the Lord that said, you gotta set your mind on things above, and basically, I gotta serve Him.
Mm-hmm.
So I I didn't want to get distracted. Um, I wanted to make sure that my whole focus on this trip was actually serving on this trip. And even when my mind would wander to, oh, I wonder how old he is, or I wonder, this or that, um, I would just stop the thought, like the Bible says, take every thought into captivity to the obedience of
Mm-hmm.
Christ. And so I wanted to do that. I had learned that lesson. Um, oh no, I hadn't learned that lesson yet. That was after that was okay. But I wanted to practice that, is to take every thought captive. And so I wanted to be focused on this trip, and I just throughout the trip. And then I thought, okay, this whole trip, I'm just going to serve Him and focus on the Lord. And then we'll see what happens.